To truly stand out, you must embrace a path less traveled by the vast majority. You, my friend, are a wonder. It might seem redundant to mention, yet there's been a trending joke with numerous videos circulating. They all claim to offer the secret sauce to soaring above 99% of the populace in terms of success. However, when you peel back the layers, it's the same recycled advice found everywhere else. Set objectives, cultivate discipline, minimize distractions. And then there's something they call monk mode. Honestly, are we expected to take this seriously? Objectives? Really? The very thing that supposedly propelled Bill Gates to his heights? As if mere goal setting is a rarity? My mailman sets goals. My cleaner exhibits discipline. Sigh. The quest to dodge distractions is universal. This idea that such endeavors are not pursued by 99% of the population is a fallacy. And this notion of monk mode? A glance at the most successful figures globally reveals no traces of monastic austerity among them. Truth be told, if a strategy is so common that you can stumble upon countless YouTube tutorials preaching it, it's hardly the ticket to surpassing the success of 99% of the population. By its very nature, achieving unparalleled success requires deviating from the norm. Here's the unvarnished truth about achieving greatness. The multitude of productivity tips and morning rituals, they're mostly noise. To underscore my argument, I'll introduce you to the fundamental practices of some of the most distinguished individuals in history, starting naturally with my own experience. When I embarked on my entrepreneurial journey, my mornings began at around 11 a.m., kick-started with a Red Bull and Reese's Cups, all enjoyed from the comfort of my bed. Continuing my unconventional journey, I spent an additional 2 hours each day glued to my laptop, savoring the taste of determination. This routine, maintained over 3 years, laid the foundation for a 6-figure enterprise before I even reached my late 20s. In the first segment of this video, I'll delve into the attributes that distinguish the exceptionally successful from the rest of the world's population. However, before your anticipation reaches a fever pitch, let's sidestep any inappropriate metaphors. The latter half will explore why striving to eclipse the success of 99% of people might not be the aspiration you imagined. After all, success, like many of life's most significant pursuits, is anything but straightforward. It's inherently complex. Now, to elevate yourself above the vast majority, there are 3 crucial steps. First, harbor a contrarian belief. Second, ensure this belief is accurate. Third, execute on this vision with unparalleled zeal. Starting with the first point, it's a rare occurrence for individuals to foster contrarian beliefs. The majority tend to align with prevailing trends or the opinions deemed popular by their peers. Yet, there exists a small but significant portion of the population capable of independent thought, crafting unique perspectives, or embracing unconventional theories. Moving on to the second point, among those who do venture into contrarian territory, a large fraction will find their theories debunked. Often, these ideas don't just miss the mark, they spectacularly fail. This is arguably the most challenging hurdle in the quest for extraordinary success, to not only dissent from the consensus, but to also be correct in your dissent. Finally, even if one manages to both challenge the status quo and validate their hypothesis, the journey is far from over. The readiness to act, to risk everything, is imperative. While reflecting on the journeys of those who've reached the pinnacle of success, it's this final step, the courage to implement, that often garners the most attention. Curiosity often gravitates towards the superficial. What's their morning routine? What supplements did she favor? Execution is frequently spotlighted, primarily because it's visible and seemingly easy to mimic. However, while execution plays a crucial role, it doesn't single-handedly dictate the scale of an individual's achievements. Steve Jobs didn't become an icon merely by adhering to an early riser's schedule and consuming an abundant amount of fruit. His legacy was cemented by his visionary belief, well ahead of his time, that computers would one day be ubiquitous across offices and homes worldwide. and his prediction proved accurate. Similarly, Warren Buffett's habitual breakfast run to McDonald's, opting for the same modest meal scorned by many, isn't the cornerstone of his success. Rather, Buffett's distinction arises from his uncanny ability to spot profoundly undervalued companies that others overlooked, investing in them, then patiently waiting, often 4 decades, with his McDonald's and Coca-Cola in hand. This patience, a rarity among most, is part of what crowned him the most celebrated investor in history. Thus, the emphasis on execution can seem disproportionate. Achieving a breakthrough that amplifies your results 100-fold renders the other 99 efforts negligible. This concept, however, is met with resistance because pinpointing that one transformative action is extraordinarily difficult. They are almost mythical in their rarity. Consequently, the discourse shifts towards more accessible topics like morning rituals and dietary habits, misleadingly suggesting that mirroring Kobe Bryant's pre-game meal of orange or grape soda with pepperoni pizza might elevate one's basketball prowess, despite my admiration for Bryant. In essence, execution is indispensable, but not the definitive ingredient for success. The bulk of advice disseminated tends to overlook the profound yet elusive factor that truly propels individuals beyond the ordinary, uncovering and acting upon that one pivotal insight or innovation that redefines their field. The toughest part of getting to the top isn't just about working hard. Everyone can do that. The real challenge is daring to be different in your thinking. It's about questioning what everyone else takes for granted and exploring ideas that others ignore. It means holding on to beliefs that aren't popular, even when people mock you for them. Remember, Steve Jobs faced a ton of critics back in the day. He was even fired from his own company for being too out there. Let's take a moment to appreciate this pizza, but also think about it. All the major breakthroughs in history came from people who dared to think differently and were right. These ideas once seemed silly until someone famous believed they could make them work. Looking back at my own career, I've worked super hard for 15 years, selling millions of books and courses and speaking in many countries. But honestly, 90% of my success came from a couple of unique ideas I had at the right moment. The most obvious one? Writing The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Back then, people thought millennials and men didn't care about self-help. But from years of blogging, I learned that wasn't true. You just had to talk to these groups in a new way. Everything else I've done just builds on that idea or a few other daring choices I've made. And I'm not the only one. Take Warren Buffett, for example. In the 58 years he's been at the helm of Berkshire, Warren Buffett says most of his investment choices were just okay. The real success came from a handful of great decisions. That's pretty wild, isn't it? After 60 years, he credits his success to around 12 smart choices. This goes to show, even when you're doing well, it's easy to overestimate how much you actually know. It's hard to grasp that sometimes just one smart move can really change your career. So, you might start thinking you've got all the answers, like knowing the secret to waking up early or running the best meetings, when in reality you might just be a bit better than average. The little things like putting butter in your coffee, standing desks, or preferring Evernote over Google Docs aren't what make a huge difference. Thinking you've upgraded your life by rearranging a few things is like saying you've improved your house just by moving the furniture around. If you don't believe it, try meeting 100 successful entrepreneurs. You'll see they're not all hitting the gym at dawn or meditating for hours. Reality is way more chaotic, but also more interesting. Take Winston Churchill. He played a huge role in winning World War II, often while soaking in a bathtub and sipping scotch. Really, you can check. Or consider Thomas Edison, who powered through days on end with barely any sleep in his lab. His secret? Cocaine. Yep. That's a part of why we have light bulbs today. And since we're on the topic, let's dive into the less appealing sides of extreme success and why being ahead of 99% of people might not be as great as it sounds. The first and most glaring reason is many people dream about becoming super successful, thinking it will finally get them the recognition and acceptance they've been longing for. Unfortunately, it often turns out the other way around. I remember back in 2008, when I decided to quit my regular job and focus on my online business. Everyone thought I had lost my mind. A lot of my corporate buddies stopped hanging out with me, and I'm pretty sure some of my relatives started to think I was up to no good. Who can blame them? At that time, no one really got what digital marketing was all about. To them, I was just this guy who went from being broke to suddenly having some internet money. It's no wonder they were confused. When you prove your doubters wrong, it can really mess with people's heads. But here's the catch. Being super successful only feels good if what you're successful in actually means something to you. And funnily enough, the kind of success we're talking about often only makes the good relationships you already have even better. Another thing to think about is that to hit on a great, unconventional idea, you've probably got to go through a bunch of bad ones first. Most of the time, those off-the-wall ideas don't work out for a reason. They've been tried, they've failed spectacularly, and people have spent years wondering why they ever thought it was a good idea in the first place. If you're younger, this is tougher because you might not realize a lot of older folks have already been there, done that with your unique idea, only to see it crash and burn. Chances are, they've moved on from many of these failed ventures. And here's maybe the most crucial takeaway. Achieving extreme success isn't going to be what makes you happy. Actually, success tends to just make you more of what you already are. If someone is already struggling with anger or sadness, becoming successful might just make those feelings stronger. On the other hand, if you've got great relationships, success can make them even better. But chasing extreme success shouldn't be your main goal. You should be chasing after that unique idea of yours because it matters so much to you, not just because you're after money or fancy things. Wanting to show off with expensive stuff and parties? That's not really being in the top 99% of success. That's more like being in the top 80%. Maybe the real question you should be asking isn't how to be more successful than almost everyone else, but why you want that in the first place. That's the question that'll actually help you figure things out. So, before you dive headfirst into trying to be this ultra-successful person, take a step back. Think about what success really means to you. Getting clear on that will help you go a lot further and be truly meaningful.